Good morning. It is like 8:30-ish, 8:40. I have been so tense because I actually made a lot of progress on my project yesterday. And yeah, so I want to have like a long work day today. I'm going to be doing my actual work. I have Moomin on the TV, which is like the show that I watch to like give me mental peace. So yeah, we're going to do like a work day. I am so like I'm working on my real job, but then I'm also so like just wanting to jump into my research study that I've been working on, my own independent research. So I'm gonna just start by like kind of easing the desire to work on it by showing you guys what I like the progress I made yesterday that was really kind of big. Basically, I could tell that there was a gap between the level of depth of what I was doing and the level of depth basically that I was seeing for another similar paper. I actually showed this in my last video about ChatGPT, so you can get an update. But basically, I had sent it a paper. It doesn't show here, but I sent it a paper that it was like a similar sort of theme, and they were doing computational modeling. It was like the rat models, the place cells, whatever. And I asked it like, what do they have in their neural network, which is what I'm trying to build, right? So they had here like everything that they had in their neural network. I think it was this one. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about like this one, it has all these little numbers and thresholds and things like that that I was like, I just don't feel like mine has that. I was like, I didn't. I was a little bit like, how do I how do I get there? Because I'm pretty new, so it's not very intuitive for me to think like I don't know. It's not as intuitive for me to know how to sort of put what needs to be in there. Like one of my big questions along the way is like what level of depth do I need to like that needs to be in my neural network? Like for example, this one here, for some reason I'm struggling to find it, but it even had like here it is. So it had like a set amount of neurons, inhibitory neurons, things like that. That I was like, that wasn't even in my original plan at all. So but I want it to be to the degree and usability of something like this. So I even asked it after, like, if you were to get it to that level of detail, would it look like? But I still was not satisfied with what it told me. Like it was just sort of a very similar. I mean, it extended a little bit, but it didn't. I was just trying to figure out like what's missing so that I can read. You know, like what's the information that I'm missing to get it to that level of detail. So yeah, so that was like a big challenge for me. But actually, yesterday I was finally able to get it to that degree. So let me show you. So the text I sent you by Jen all seems more technically complicated than mine. Why is that so? What am I missing? There seem to be formulas, numbers, number of synapses, etc. This is what I was saying in my last video about ChatGPT. It's like you really have to keep figuring out the right way to prompt it to get you where you need to go because it's not necessarily intuitive about certain things. Like that's what I was trying to get it to do with the last part. And obviously it can't give me all the numbers, you know, that's my job, but I just wanted it to tell me like obviously there was like a gap in complexity. So I was like, how do I get it to tell me that? Because that's what I'm looking for. Like, what do I need? So it did tell me like it's more mathematically and biophysically detailed than the current state of my project. It told me why it's more complicated. So they're modeling low level. Okay, I'm not going to read everything, but it's a biophysical systems neuroscience model. So they need to have everything. So neurons, what kind of inhibition, precise conductance equations. They're building a ground up mechanistic explanation. So they want to see how real neurons produce real network oscillations. I was kind of like, that's what I want because what I've been telling you the whole time, I'm trying to make this like biologically realistic. So why did ChatGPT not think to tell me that when I asked it over and over again, like what's missing or like what? I was like, come on, that's what I've been trying to tell you, like wanting you to tell me. So that requires defining time constants, delay parameters, exact connectivity matrices and neuron population sizes, and what I'm doing and why it's less math heavy right now. My goal, okay, so I'm not trying to simulate individual dendritic spikes, calcium conductance, exact ripple bandwidth. I'm simulating this. And it doesn't require precision unless you wanted to. I don't know. I was just kind of like, what? I don't know. I feel like I've been telling it over and over again. Like, I want this to be like rigid, publishable. That's why it's so important to start giving it the text that you're talking about and having that conversation. Because it's like, sometimes ChatGPT just has like these assumptions about what you're doing. And I mean, maybe it just thought I would get those numbers later on. I mean, I don't think it thinks that far ahead because it's a computer, but I was just like, I've asked you over and over again, like, what would an advisor say, all these things, and it like wasn't really giving me this, which is what I needed. So I was like, what? But anyways, and it says I'm still in a conceptual phase. You're building a framework for understanding memory fragmentation. And it's often step one in building a scalable, biologically inspired model. But haven't I been telling you the whole time that I'm trying to build a scalable, biologically inspired model? Come on. Okay. Anyways, I was really irritated. I was like, okay. But anyways, so it told me all these things I could add if I want to match that detail. Exact neuron count, LIF neuron parameters, synaptic weights and matrices, data. Okay, so it told me all this stuff. It says I'm not missing anything. I'm just at a higher level of abstraction, which is appropriate for the questions that I'm asking. And then I could add more technical depth later, such as for publication or simulation fidelity. I'm telling you the whole time I want to get this published, bro. Think. Sometimes I have such a love-hate relationship to ChatGPT. Like, yes, I want to do this. What? Anyways, this is what I keep asking. How would the most strict and rigorous person react to what I've done so far? How many times have I had to ask you this question? It thinks I'm a chump, bro. Tell me everything I need to know. Anyways, okay. Let me play the voice of a highly rigorous reviewer from one of these top-tier journals. What I've been wanting this whole time. Okay, I'm not even going to focus on this. What I've done well, I don't care. What needs serious work to meet rigorous standards? Lack of implementation details. Okay, so it gave me this list. I'm like, thank you. This was necessary. So anyways, it was like, where's the full model? I expect these things. So that's great. I'll find all that. No validation against experimental data. What are your benchmarks? So like a scale or something, like how do I know, I guess, what's happening? No noise or variability handling. This was pretty interesting. Where's the randomness? Because, brains can be pretty random and they don't always work the exact same way every time. So I need that. Vague definition of fragmentation. This is something I need to, this is a big thing that I think I'm going to work on maybe today, or I don't know. I need to plan what I'm going to target today. But basically, yeah, so I need to define fragmentation. So I'm actually already made like a little list of how I'm going to do that based on everything, but I have some text that I'm going to read on fragmentation, and then I'm going to pull out the core qualities of fragmentation, essentially, and then I'm going to use tests that you'll see. I actually already talked to ChatGPT about this. Find tests that are going to make sure that I'm covering those bases of those qualities. I think that would be a good idea. And then no concrete simulation output or visualization. So it wants to see memory traces, ACH over time. Well, it's basically just saying it's not seeing my model, so it has no way of evaluating this. So, okay, valid. So, yeah, I was like, thank you. This is what I want. I want it to be strict and I want it to tell me these things. I hate when you're talking to ChatGPT and it's like, you're amazing. It's like, don't tell me that. Tell me this. Like, this is what I want to know. And it took so much probing for me to get this answer out of it, but which is really irritating. But anyway, so see, look, underdeveloped, missing, needs precision. Thank you. Tell me that. So yeah, it told me everything I should do. So I actually asked it, like, is there anything here that can be pulled from that paper that I sent it on acetylcholine? I guess I wasn't thinking straight, because actually none of these things are really that relevant to the rat model, but I don't know. I was kind of tired at this point. I was I was out in the middle of the city. I had like multiple suitcases and like, I don't know. I just got like a wave of inspiration to start asking questions. But anyways, so it did tell me so, but it told me it told me I can't get them there, but it told me where to get them, and that's so helpful. So it told me I can get the neuron count in rats from these papers. It told me I can get the firing threshold from these things. It was like, thank you. This is the most helpful conversation I've had with ChatGPT probably the entire time. Time constants. This is what I'm saying. It's like ChatGPT is so good, but you need to have such a good sense of like there's something not right here. Or like you need to check on like every possible front. You need to make sure that it's getting checked on like multiple different ways for you to make sure that you're not getting led astray. In this context, I'm sure in other things, it's like if you ask ChatGPT to like write me a LinkedIn post or something, it's like, okay, I think it's pretty easy. But like in this context, I've been sort of asking it questions because I'm like new and nobody wants to be my advisor. I'm too young. Okay, I'm too young. I don't have the background to apply for the programs I want to apply for, but I'm like I can't keep going in life without just being done with this. You get me? So I was like I need to just do it and not worry. So I need to use ChatGPT, but it's just like okay. Anyways, so it did tell me where to get all of that, which is cool. I wanted to share this because when I first saw all this, I was, like I said, I was really exhausted at that point, and I was just really tired. And I looked at this and I was like, basically, like, oh no, it's too far. It's too far above my realm. Like, I can't do it. Like now I'm seeing that I actually can't do this at all, and like I'm not there enough. Like I'm not ready enough. But then I had to think, and I was like, what am I even talking about? First of all, it now gave me the list of everything I need to do, so I'm like significantly further ahead. I was like, why am I freaking out? But I was like, I don't know these things. How can I do these things? And it's like, I don't know. I just had a moment where I was like, you got to look at the challenge in the face and not get like frustrated, not get worried like that, and just look at everything as like now all the information is here. Sometimes you go to people and they're like, oh, okay, like I actually did show some of these things to people in my life, or like I expressed a desire to go on an adjacent path to this, and sometimes like I would show like my work to people that were like sort of in my field or like whatever, and they're like, oh well, they didn't say, oh, it can't be done, but they're like, well, this is actually really hard, and this is that. Like, for example, before I wanted to work with dissociative identity disorder, specifically, like and they were like, well, it's really incredibly difficult to find people who have dissociative identity disorder to like do the study with, and it's really like gamma synchrony is something really, really difficult to even test. And I think like at that point, I was sort of supposed to give up. I wasn't supposed to. It's not. I wasn't supposed to, but it was kind of like just like wait or like what I'm saying. It's like okay, like you need a little bit more experience. But then I was like okay, sometimes people take that little criticism of like, well, this is hard and this is hard and this is hard and this is hard, and they're like, oh, so you can't do it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, so it's impossible. But you have to look at that list sometimes. It's like, okay, now that's information. So now I'm going to work with that and see what I can actually do. And that's why I'm building a neural network right now, right? So I don't know. Sometimes, like, I think a lot of people, when they get criticism, it's like, oh, so those are the signs that I can't do it. And I had that moment when I was looking at this. But then I had to remind myself, I was like, this is so important to me. The fact that I'm even here, this has taken me, 4 months? Sometimes it feels like I've been doing it for years, okay? Like, to the degree that I've been doing this like every day, it feels like a lifetime. And I'm like, I got to this point in 4 months. Okay, I need to remind myself of that more. If I'm like the fact that I'm even here, the fact that I'm about to have finished 60 papers, like I feel like how can I give up at this point? I can't at all. And also, this is so important to me. I've been really reflecting recently on the idea that there are some things in life that you just cannot give up on. There's some things in life that like they're gonna call you. You can't give up on that. You have to keep going. You have to keep trying. You have to just keep facing the challenge head on and continue on when it seems difficult. because they're just that important to you. And this is one of those things for me. I have gotten how many I can't even describe to you on every possible front how many times I've gotten the message to not keep going or to move on or wait or this. I haven't. Okay, there's some things in life that are just like that. Like, you just cannot give up on them. They're not worth giving up on. And this is one of those things for me. It's like every time I'm like, should I stop? I remember like why I'm doing this in the first place. I think, can people with these types of disorders, can they go, like, I don't want them to go even one singular day more being invalidated the way that science is invalidating them right now. I just can't. Like, it hurts me to think that people are just sitting there and nobody's really, like, people are not doing enough for their condition and like are giving up on them. Do you know what I mean? It's like I feel like I have to be one person that doesn't give up on that, because everybody else is seeming to give up on it sometimes. Like, not everybody, but like a lot of people are just saying that it's false, and a lot of people are just giving up. And it's like, how can I give up? I can't. You know what I mean? And for, like, for example, for survivors and for the trauma that they're facing, it's like, how can I give up? I can't give up. I have to keep going. I have to keep doing it. Because if everybody else is giving up, but I have the answer, I can't give up, right? Like, if I have the answer to their problem, then I have to keep going for them too. Like, for me, but also for other people in this situation. It's so painful. I can't even describe to you how emotionally painful it is to be in this situation. It sucks horribly. And I'm like, I can't give up on this at all. So I was like, I have to look at this list and be like, well, if this is what it takes for me to get there, well, I'm going to learn everything, right? So I'm going to read all these papers that they are like telling me to read. I'm going to read them. Right. And I was thinking a lot too about how I was thinking this yesterday. I was really like trying to get myself inspired, because I've been really actually quite nervous about this part, and just thinking of all the different ways that I could like fail at this part of my project. Obviously, I'll keep going. If I do it wrong, I'll just keep trying. But at the same time, like, I think that I was thinking about how a lot of people, things that you think are impossible, it's not that they're impossible. It's just that you hit your limit with how far you are willing to go. You know what I mean? I think that everyone at some point, you get to a point where maybe like, oh, you're doing something really that seems really challenging. I don't know. You're trying to start something new. You're trying to, I don't know, if you're into music, you're trying to make it in the music industry or whatever. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, it's so hard and it's so challenging. And you finally think like, okay, it's just not possible. I'm done. Right. And it's like, it's not that it couldn't be done. It's that you hit your limit with it, and your limit was like underneath the scope of where you needed to go, right? I think that anything on earth can happen. Anything is possible. There's not a limit. There's not, like, nothing is actually impossible at all. Impossible is just a way to keep people down that actually have passion and care, right? That's all the word impossible is for. And if you can, like, the things that are impossible belong to the people that can go past that limit and who don't keep making that limit for themselves, right? And it's valid. Sometimes you hit the limit. Sometimes you're like, I'm too exhausted. I've been trying for years. This is a lot, right? But there's anything on earth that you like, but you have to know though, it's not because the thing was impossible. It's that you hit your limit with it, and you should be honest with yourself about that, right? It's like, it's not an impossible thing, but I hit my limit with it and I can't go further. That's okay. Or you say, I hit my limit now. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to keep trying. But nothing is actually impossible. In reality, anything can happen to anybody, but it's just that some people are going to hit their limit, and you have to notice that you hit your limit and it's not actually that it's impossible, right? So, you know, I could have looked at this right now and just been like, okay, I hit my limit. This is a lot of work. I can't do this. But I'm like, no, like, I need this, and it's going to happen for me. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm saying you with 100% certainty it's going to happen, because I'm not going to hit my limit with this, because I'm tired of people hitting their limit with this. I'm tired of people hitting their limit when it comes to women, when it comes to survivors, when it comes to people with dissociative disorders. I'm tired of people hitting their limit and giving up, right? Because a lot of people hit their limit because they don't understand, they're not invested enough, right? They're not invested enough in the pain that these people are feeling. I am deeply invested because I see how horrible it is. I don't wish it on anybody. So that's why I'm going to keep going. So anyways, that was my little talk. But yeah, basically, I got to read all that. I'll show you guys too. Like, it's not as important, but basically, I also have been asking questions about like my narrative function. I've been a little bit, because now I'm using like rap model numbers, which I wasn't expecting. And I've been a little bit like, okay, but how is like our trauma memories gonna fit into that model of the rats? I've been kind of like, is that even realistic? I guess I'll make memories that are very rat appropriate traumas, if that makes sense. I'll make rat appropriate traumas instead of being like a story. So I don't know, that kind of worries me, but I'll just do that, I guess. Because all these like nodes and things do happen in rats. So I'm not like far off when it comes to that. I guess I would just keep it appropriate to rat traumas. I don't know. I know that human traumas are going to probably work differently, but and I actually asked it. I want you to approach everything I say with that same skepticism and mentality of that reviewer, unless otherwise prompted. Because I'm like, this is what ChatGPT should do. It shouldn't be like sort of telling us whatever we want to hear, because that's not even helpful. Yeah, and then I just looked at some scales that and things that are used to look at fragmentation, and I'm going to think about those once I get a good definition of fragmentation together, and just see which of these is the best for actually testing whether the memories are sort of fragmented. So that's basically the conversation that we had yesterday, and I did actually go out of it feeling pretty inspired, because I was like, okay, now I actually have a to-do list for the rest of my texts. Like, I have a to-do list of things I need to cover. So that's pretty cool, and I think that'll make it way easier. So we're gonna go off, we're gonna do like other work, we're gonna have a little day in my life, and then we're gonna come back to this throughout the day.
Oh yes! They just keep on coming up from that spot. There were some big ones earlier.
It's funny because I've been doing this hard task this whole time, for like, I've been doing this for quite a few months, and I was so like, I don't know, I had so much drive, and I was so like feeling really confident. And I think now, because it's actually getting to be time for me to actually do it, I feel really overstimulated by the task, and I just feel like a little bit overwhelmed today and nervous. But I'm trying to remind myself, like, just one foot in front of the other. I'm gonna link a song below that I used to love listening to as a kid. I just thought it was like such a good, funny song when I was like, I don't know, like 9 or something. But I was thinking of that song today. But anyways, I think I'm gonna like make coffee, and I don't know, I feel like I need to do something to get my energy moving a little bit, like do something to just feel a little bit better, because I just feel really, when you feel so overwhelmed by work that you can't work. That's how I've been feeling. Making my coffee, but something I really appreciated from my dad growing up is that once I got to like high school or so, my sister and I's dad, obviously, he would just make us do things, okay? My dad was not very strict, okay? We didn't have like a super strict household growing up, but when it came to things that were important for our careers, or things that were like important commitments, he made us, like, we had to do it. Like, at one point I volunteered at a radio station in my city. I don't know, I was kind of nervous. I felt I was way too young to be doing it, really. I was always doing stuff, so I was like, I feel like I felt too young to be there. But I don't know, I sort of started to back out, or didn't really want to do it as much. But then my dad was like, you made a commitment, you have to stick to it. That's a big thing that he was I appreciate that he always passed along to us, is that if we made a commitment to something, like, he wanted us to see it through. And because I did that volunteering when I was like 14, I learned how to do stuff like editing audio and things that actually ended up being cool parts of my life later. And also, I wouldn't be doing YouTube right now if I didn't have like a little bit of editing experience. My editing isn't perfect yet, but it's something. And I ended up doing a lot of internship opportunities when I was like in high school. That, my family's not wealthy or anything, but my dad also, he knew a lot of people in the city because he did a lot of different activities, and he basically spoke to a family that he knew that had a production company, because back then I was really thinking I would love to do documentaries one day, which kind of gave up on. But I guess, again, like, YouTube's kind of that. And they said I could be like an intern, I guess, essentially. And I felt way too young to be there. I was extremely intimidated, but I don't know, I just feel like my dad, like, he was really good about making sure that we went into places that scared us, and then we committed to being there. And sometimes my sister and I would get like frustrated, or we'd be frustrated by the task of committing to something difficult or something that took time out of our social life or whatever. But he did always make sure that like we were like, you know, you made a commitment, you have to go. And I think that was a really good thing. I'm grateful that if he was strict anywhere, which he really wasn't strict anywhere else, but if he was strict somewhere, like that was where he was going to be strict, because I think my sister and I are both, we really care about our success. We're really good at like seeing our things through, and it's been good to really make a commitment to this, and like I'm going to see it through. Like I'm not going to give up on it even when it's hard. Like I'm committing to seeing this thing through all the way, and it's like it's a commitment. Like obviously nobody's making me do it. It's not a job, but it's a commitment to myself. Like I'm not going to give up on myself, and this is important to me. So like I have to do it. It's my responsibility to me. I'm actually the youngest person at this company that I'm working at right now. And they did like, it's kind of funny. They were sort of like, they weren't very sure at first because they had their reservations about Gen Z and stuff like that. But they did take a chance, and I'm so grateful because it's been such a learning opportunity. But I do think that I'm very frequently, or growing up, I was very frequently the youngest person in like a space, in my workspace. And I think that was also good for me. I think it's always been really nerve-wracking for me in every like situation where I've been in that spot, because you're around people that are so experienced. But it also gives me the motivation and the incentive to live up to that standard and live up to the standard of people that are more experienced than me, and to make myself be an asset. Like I have to be an asset and really carry my own weight, you know? When I was younger, I was like volunteering at this radio station. It was not a kid thing to do at all. There was no other kids. I was like 14 and I felt so intimidated. And then, for example, after I did this production intern position, or through the production intern position, and then later on, like I got hired at another production company, and I was like the youngest, you know, I was really young. At first I didn't even have a car, like I couldn't drive. And then later I could drive, so I could do these production assistant jobs, but I was literally always the youngest person. Everybody else was like at least in college. So I would be really scared. Like, I hope I'm pulling my own weight. I hope that people don't think it's weird that I'm here. I'm not being like too childish. But yeah, I think that was a good thing for me because it challenged me. And along those lines, this is the biggest lesson my mom taught me. My mom actually, so she is now an artist, doing all sorts of different types of like multimedia art. But when she was younger, she went on a whole long path. She didn't get into art in this way until later, but she did like journalism, she did anthropology, she did all these different things, and she'd never really settled down on one thing that she really wanted to do, right? But as she went along, she kept going, she kept doing the thing she was passionate about, and then she landed on her art career. And in her art career, she does everything, right? She does everything that she learned. She does a bit of sort of journalistic sort of, she talks about current events, politics, and then she uses her anthropology knowledge to do her art too, because her art is, again, about politics, history, artifacts. And then she uses the art skills she learned. She did art classes when we lived in Peru, where she learned all these different sort of methods, like traditional methods. And then it all came together into something. And it was like, okay, this is it, right? So the biggest takeaway, she would tell us this, right? That you never know, like, just go along and keep doing the things that you care about. And you never know, over time, everything starts to come together. You can't always see exactly where the things that you're doing are going to lead you, but they do end up coming together. And then you see why each piece ends up being important. And all of the things that you do end up playing a part in the work that you do and in the way that you navigate your life. It's funny because I had completely forgotten that I used to want to make documentaries. And I looked back on that recently and I was like, oh, that's so silly. Like, I guess that ended up completely off base from what I'm even doing, but this has really been sort of my documentary of my process too. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I do think that everything that you do plays a part. Now I'm wanting to go into something more sciencey, and I'm like, oh, why did I major in comparative literature and society? It seems like kind of a waste. It's not, because I really enjoyed it, and also because I do think that the skills that I learned have been really transferable. But at the same time, I found myself really enjoying making videos where I'm talking about race and things, and people have really been interested in those videos too. Those have been my most popular videos so far, and people have asked me to make more. So I wouldn't have been able to do that without having been a student of comparative literature and society. So I think it's good sometimes to not get too stuck in having to go down a certain path and let yourself explore a little bit and have faith that that path is going to guide you to your end goal in some way, shape, or form, and everything turns out, useful. So there you go, the main wisdom I got from my parents growing up.
Girl, this movie is losing the plot. Literally, like, we're losing the plot big time. Side quest that I've gone on as I've gone on.
We have officially hit the time of night where I have to cook something random and watch like the worst movie you've ever seen in your life.
This is gorgeous!
Yes, future queen, yes!
What's that, Prince? You'd like to dance? Get in line, Your Highness.
So I'm gonna spend the rest of the night honestly just getting my notes from my text into this document. I have about 30 left. It's basically I've just been putting everything that like all of my notes into here. Basically just everything that matters to my project. It's really useful because I think the first time around I'm just reading, but the second time around I'm actively engaging a little bit more with the information. So it helps me to see the connections better. Like I think I start to put things together. So the only thing is that it's really kind of time and labor intensive, which sucks. So I've been really behind on doing that. I could try to put less, but I don't know. It's been really helpful because, like, for example, one of the first texts that I even read at all for this project was The Body Keeps the Score. So this one about post-traumatic stress. And when I first started the project, I wasn't thinking about like I didn't have a really thorough thought process together about arousal and acetylcholine and all those things that came later on. Like I had like that was sort of the guiding principle, but I didn't have that word. Like I think I just developed my ideas more around that theme. So actually I didn't put this one in until like a few days ago. But after I started to put it in, it brought me back and I started to see more things that I could put in my intro or more connections because this whole thing is talking about arousal as well and how it creates the experience of trauma. So yeah, I was the second time through it actually became more relevant for me after, when I read it again. So it's a good process for me to look over the text again. I don't want to skip out on it. For example, I could in theory give the documents to ChatGPT and say anything that I highlighted, make it into a note. I don't know, that feels a little bit cheap, but I also feel like writing it myself, like with my own hands and everything, has been part of my learning experience. And I feel like I put things together that way. So I've been a little bit hesitant to do that, even though I'm really behind on this document, but there's no rush, I guess. I've been trying to sort of just zone out today and just get things in there. Like, don't think about it, just put it into the document. And I finished like 1.5 so far. I started like, a little while ago. But yeah, I think I'm going to go through and put some of the bigger, like more labor intensive ones in today so then they can be done. Because I have ones that were really, really important. So for example, this one about evaluation of the evidence for the trauma and fantasy models of dissociation. Yeah, that one was really important to me. And then it sucks because I had some that I read that were on my old laptop and my old laptop just conked out. So I need to basically reread them, which is not a bad thing. I think rereading them or dealing with them again has been a really good opportunity for me to sort of sit with information again, with everything that I sort of have in my head, because the project has developed a lot over time. So I think as I go through, I have a better sense of what my method needs and etc. So for example, a lot of these were on my old laptop, so I do need to get them again and just read them again. and find everything. It kind of sucks, but these are short ones. These were all like, I don't know, some of them even as short as like 5 pages. So it's not that bad. And, it's like a central idea. I actually felt really, really good today, though, because I had done most of this one, the inescapable stress in rats text. And this is one of the ones that I'm really going to base my model off of, like my method section, because it's really, really good. Basically biological model saying exactly what I'm saying. It was actually good today because I was finishing everything up and I started to get excited again because I was reading more things that I think I glazed over the first time around that are useful for me now. So for example, I didn't see it. They actually cited some other studies about how handling stress was accompanied by a 94% increase in the hippocampus, and that a mild stressor was accompanied by a 75 to 80% increase hippocampal ACH release. That's actually going to be really useful to me now coming back. I'm actually even going to highlight it because I'm going to have my method. I'm going to have some that are extremely arousing, some that are a bit arousing, and some of them that are really neutral. I needed to find what neutral is and etc. But these are good numbers as well because the numbers that I had already were for more like inescapable, more intense stress. So, this number that I got from the 168%, and this is pretty cool too. So a more intense stress procedure in another study basically reported the same thing, that an acetylcholine response in the hippocampus was remarkably similar to that of the present study. And that it was the thing that was the same about that study was actually that in that one, they also had a more, like a longer duration, I would say, longer duration and intensity of the stressor, just like in this study. So it really keeps highlighting that idea that intense or prolonged stress creates a similar number of increase due to a stressor. So yeah, it was just a good thing to read over again. And yeah, I don't know. I don't want to skip out on that. I don't want to cheap out on this part because this is like the most important thing. Actually, once my method section is done, once I have the method section sort of defined, it's not like I have to. I'm lucky in the sense that I don't have to run an experiment like in person. For example, I was a research assistant this year, and we were running our research experiment for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or so. We were running it for a really long time because, of course, we had to wait to get people. They had to come in and stuff. For me, once I'm done with everything, like I'm just running it on my computer. And of course, I don't know exactly how that's going to go, but it's I think this is like probably the most important part of the process is just me getting a good understanding of what I'm doing to make sure that my neural network is like really solid. So yeah, just showing you guys, but that's basically what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the night. I'm just going to turn on like some TV and I kind of am just going to like zone out my way through it because I'm like, I need to start putting in like the numbers a little bit more because I'd really like at least this part done by the time I start my master's degree program. Granted, I start my master's degree program like end of September. I think I keep thinking by the end of this month because that's usually when school starts in the US, but it starts later here. So I actually do have a bit more time than I feel like I do to get this sort of together. Okay, we're back to this for a minute. This has been like the theme of of the video of the series. It's just my relationship to this theory and psychology. And okay, one of my biggest challenges as I've gone along has just been like I get so irritated. Like every time I sit with this particular thing, I get so irritated sometimes that it's like there's so much adrenaline coursing through my veins while I'm like working that like I'm like I have to stop for a minute. I'm 23, right? This is the nice thing about being 23. I feel like you're not held to the standards of a 40-year-old. I can still say stuff like this and get away with it because I'm 23. This is single-handedly the most stupid thing I've ever heard in my life. Every time I look at this, I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever read with my own two eyes. And it's so stupid. I'm going to just say it. Like, it's so stupid that people just sit here and like make this a prominent part of psychology. Like, it actually makes me upset how many people have mirrored back this line of thinking to me. And I'm like be logical. Does this not sound nonsensical? Like, I don't know. Like, to me, I'm just like, what? So the fantasy model is so dumb. It is like the dumbest thing I've ever read, ever. What? Have proposed an alternative and attempted to test an alternative to the trauma model called the fantasy model.
even the name just sounds stupid, that argues that dissociation is a psychological process causally unrelated to any traumatic or stressful events, and they posit that trauma histories reported by individuals with those dissociative experiences. Let's go back again. Let's remind ourselves, who has dissociative experiences? People with severe trauma, schizophrenia, ADHD, OCD, and bipolar. All of these people, you're saying about this whole group of people, okay? The stupidest thing I've ever read are largely confabulations resulting from fantasy proneness, suggestion, and cognitive distortions. It is so lazy. I'm getting to the point in the project where I can say this, because now I'm like, I'm doing my science, right? So I can back it. I get so mad. It's so lazy, bro. You cannot think outside the box for 2 minutes. You can't be creative, like just a tiny bit more creative, and actually think about why somebody might be struggling with something. Like, this is the laziest theory I've ever heard, and it is a disgrace. Honestly, it is a disgrace that this has ever been actually accepted as good psychology. This is not even good science to me. Like, there's nothing even backing this well. I don't understand why so many people are even treat it with any level of respect, scientific respect or psychological. It is gaslighting. It is just pure gaslighting. It actually makes me really upset. Like, to think that anybody in psychology would take this idea and run with it. Think for a minute, bro. That is gaslighting. That is just pure gaslighting of people that are suffering. Maybe it happens to some people, but to think that you would take this idea and just put it across the board. And I just feel so horrible, because anybody who I've ever seen actually have a dissociative identity diagnosis, particularly, because that's the one that gets most affected by this idea. I think some people can accept, other dissociative experiences, but the dissociative identity disorder is the one that people just really can't. And it's like the people that I've heard from, like online, whatever, that have the diagnoses, it's like they have gone through such awful things. And it's just like, this is the people that you're silencing and the people that you're hurting. And it's like, it just sits so negatively with me in every possible sense. And just the fact that psychology then radiates out into everything else in the world, into people, like into the justice system, into everything. And it just like sets a bad precedent and a bad example for every other area of society. And it's so misogynistic. And it is just awful bad science. Every time I read it, I'm like, how is anybody accepting this as science? How have I heard this from so many people? How, like, this shouldn't even be a controversy. This should be like a marginalized minority opinion. Tiny minority opinion. And every person that I've spoken to about dissociative disorders, they know this. And it's like a controversy. Why is it a controversy? Just think for a minute. I don't even understand, to be honest with you. Like, I'm getting really upset this time around. I felt it in the whole little like series I've made. Like, I've tried to be professional or like say it in a nice tone, but it's like, it's so stupid. It's the stupidest thing I've ever read in my life. I just feel like, how can you sit and look at something calling people fantasy prone, suggestible, and all these things, and like, it doesn't even, and it's just also the lack of life experience and the lack of reading about like social justice and everything to come to this conclusion. Because like, I just was reading all of these things where it's like, oh, people are saying that because all these things happened in like trials, and you know, these families made these sort of organizations try like getting upset that their kids are taking them to court. And it's like, an abuser, I'm done. It is not across the board. False memories happen and stuff. An abuser, a group of abusive people would do that. People have never dealt with abusers to think that that wouldn't be the reaction, and to think that people wouldn't have that reaction across the board to people speaking out about their sexual trauma. And then I know that some people end up retracting it, but at the end of the day, like, after you've recovered a memory of sexual abuse, you've tried to speak out about it, you're being gaslit by the court, you're being gaslit by the person who did it because they don't want to go to jail. Now, of course, you're going to sit there and be like, well, I guess it was all fake. I guess my therapist told me. It's just a system. It's a massive system of gaslighting and just abuse. And it's so awful. It's so awful. It makes me like genuinely physically upset every time I read it, every time I write it down. Makes me sick to my stomach. Like, I'm getting sick to my stomach even talking about it right now. It's horrible. This is horrible. We should never accept this as good science. This is disgusting to me. I feel disgusted the way that people are speaking out about what they're experiencing, and like they're met with this ridiculousness from psychology. It is not okay. It is not okay. And we should never let some kind of BS theory like this ever, like, just, it's so bad. It's so bad to be mass gaslighting this amount of people. My God. And this amount of conditions is just disgusting to me. Never should we do this again. And everybody in psychology, please, like, they need to be more socially educated and just aware of like just deeper like social, I don't even know, social justice and social things that are happening on like in the world. And like, I just, for me, it felt so obvious reading that particular overlap as somebody who was navigating the justice system. I was like, clearly and obviously that would happen if you're trying to bring your sex. You think people are going to bring their, like, oh my God, it's just so nonsensical. And it's like, please, people, read about politics and society and everything before you come up with these BS theories, because like, I just think one conversation with anybody who has ever dealt with the justice system would just speak volumes. Genuinely, because it's like the lack of understanding is insane. And like, just listening to people who have been through abuse, that is just how it goes with abuse. Nobody wants to own up to abuse. That's how it works. Particularly sexual abuse has just been so covered up and covered up and covered up. People benefit from a theory like this. Like, actually in society, people benefit. There's somebody benefit, particularly like prominent men. Just, it's just like, it's so sad and it's so bad, and it just stops us from continuing on. And like, I think I'm just in the point in the project where I'm like, I can say it now because I'm not speaking from nowhere. It's like, it's stupid. You could have thought for 2 more seconds and put effort into a theory, and you could have listened, and you could have actually tried, and you could have actually thought about how would this work. And it's like, it was not even that hard, to be honest with you. It didn't take that much thinking. It didn't take that much reading. And it's just like, the reason I was able to get, oh my God, this is really emotional for me. The reason I was even able to get to this in the first place is simply because I had the privilege of being able to believe myself, because I was living it. I was living it. So I could say, well, it has to be true. There's no wishy-washiness in my head of this is a lie. Like, this is true. Unless I were to gaslight myself, which I've done plenty of because people gaslit me plenty. But this is true because I'm living it. So I'm not going to sit here and dilly-dally. Oh, is it fake? Is it this? Is it that? It's not fake. It's real. And if we were to actually listen to the people actually telling you about the disorder themselves, like, you would just have that knowledge and understanding. But like, people are creating a system here, particularly in psychology, with the fantasy model that makes it so that people can't at all be heard or helped in psychology. And it is just disgusting. I'm sorry. This is disgusting behavior. As psychologists, you should listen. You should not be creating systems of medical gaslighting is what it is. It is disgusting. I'm not, like, it's just so upsetting. And that's why I can't give up. Like, I don't care. I'm 23. Like, I don't have the experience. I do not give a singular anything. Like, I gotta do it because it's so irritating. And it's just so irritating how it's like, how can people even believe this? And it's so badly done. It is just like, somebody handed me like something really badly written and really badly done. And I was just like, oh, that seems true. Like, in no other situation. I'm sorry. I hate it's so stupid. And I'm not saying that there aren't cases where that happens, but to say that it is across the board, it is just simply ridiculous and so false and so unscientific and so ungrounded in anything real about society or the world. Like, this is just awful to me. When I was at university, I wasn't able to get, justice through Title IX, whatever, but I was able to get this person kicked out of all of their clubs at the time. So I got something. I emailed them all myself, and I told them, like, this is what happened. And they got kicked out. One of the clubs they got kicked out of was like a Democrats club, which is so ironic. This is the ironic part, is that I was in my dorm room and we had somebody over who was hanging out with my roommate. I started overhearing the conversation, and she was from that club. Like, I remembered her, and she was saying that's pretty crazy that somebody basically made like an allegation and that this person got kicked out, but that basically that people from that club were still living with him. Women, girls were living with him, and apparently that he had told them that it was, basically it was all fake and like all this stuff. That I don't know, I guess I didn't know what I was talking about, or I don't know, I was out to get him, something like that. And he had told these people in the Democrats club. That is the most ironic thing to me. It's like, y'all don't even believe women in the Democrats club. That's crazy. But anyways, and I was just overhearing this conversation and about how crazy it was. This was like a year later. And I basically stepped in. I was like, I was the person who told them, like, I was the one who did it. And like, it's pretty insane. Like, it's just pretty insane how you can speak out and it doesn't matter. Like, people the people who, like, the person who did it obviously is not going to take accountability. They're going to tell everyone around you that you're a liar. Like, that's how it works. They'll tell everybody around, like, they'll try to basically, obviously the people around me, they knew, like, we were all in this friend group, and they already hated him from the get-go because he acted like that. Like, that was a pattern of behavior that was exhibited, right? In other situations, not just with me. So they believed me. They knew. They all dropped him. But in another situation where people didn't know me, they didn't know this person well, he was charming, he was this, he was that, he was in the Democrats club, he's like a good person, whatever. Basically, he was able to tell these women, other women, that, like, it's all crazy, it's all false, all this stuff, to the degree where they would even live with him. Which I just found it so ironic. I was like, isn't that supposed to be your value, is like believing women? I was just like, what? Not even the Democrats, bro. That's why I don't believe in party politics at all. I don't. I'm like, there's people like that. There's Republicans like that. And then there's Democrats that don't even care. They don't believe or whatever. So I don't even think it's a party politics issue. But I was just like, wow. And yeah, just to know that there was somebody out there basically talking about, like, my real abuse, and, like, basically he was spinning it. And that's how just go learn about how abusers work. They work like that. Okay. So when I hear that people in the justice system, like, they're getting their abuse twisted, and then all of a sudden they think that they didn't, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not saying that is always the case. There are plenty of people that they get confused or whatever. Like, it does happen, but that's also really common. Like, that's a common abuse tactic. Of course, nobody's going to show up and be like, oh yeah, you know what, they're right. I did sexually abuse them. I did sexually abuse them as a child. I did do this, that. Like, they're not going to do it. And, like, the court most often, I've never heard of, like, I never hear success stories from survivors. Never, ever, never. Like, I don't ever hear good stories. It's always, they got a year because they're, they had a big career ahead of them. Like, all this stuff. It's like hurting my stomach to even talk about, but it's like, people don't get the justice. So the justice system it's not built to support, like, our stories at all. It's not. So that's just what really drove it home for me. I was like, there's something deeper going on than just people are being fed stories by their psychiatrist or by hypnotist or whatever. Like, it just makes me sick to even speak about, but that's how abusers work. I've experienced that firsthand. I overheard that whole conversation that he was saying I was lying and all this stuff. And it's like, he essentially got away with it in the justice system. You can get away with it. You can lie to people about, it didn't happen. The people around me know, not just because I said it happened, but because they had already cut him off before I even did, because I was so deep in the abuse dynamic that I wasn't able to leave for quite some time. Literally, I lost all my friends at that point in time, and I was just stuck in this abuse with these people and with him. And I was the only one. Everyone else cut even me off because, I was, like, so stuck in the gaslighting. He was, this person was gaslighting me. The people around me were gaslighting me. So I was stuck there. I was in a lot of emotional pain, and I couldn't remember what happened to me, but I was really traumatized, and I was really hurt and depressed and all this stuff. But I was really stuck there. My God, all the trauma coming out tonight. But yeah, it's essentially, like, but even everybody around me had already cut him off because of that pattern of behavior, right? So it's not just, oh, like, I'm crazy and I'm just making stuff up, right? People literally cut him off before I even did. So that's the crazy thing, right? And then all of a sudden, like, I'm actually trying to get justice, and he's going around telling other young Democrats that I'm a liar and all this stuff, and he's getting away with it. So it happens like that. That is how abuse works. And it just shocks me when people in psychology, like, don't even understand the dynamics of abuse. That is how abuse works. Nobody's going to go to court, be like, oh, okay, yeah, I did sexually abuse you. Like, it's just not going to happen like that. They're going to say you're faking and you're lying. And people who are emotionally, like, the gaslighting is deep. I'm a smart person. I was being deeply gaslit and just deeply manipulated, all this stuff, right? And it's hard like that. And it happens to people, I think that it makes sense for some people to go out of that and retract it, be like, I guess it was false, particularly because we don't have enough information about recovered memory. So it's easy to support people and their recovered memory, like, stories, right? It's really hard to tell people how to navigate that because we just don't have the information. So yeah, that's what was my thinking when I was reading all these papers about dissociation when I was writing my undergrad thesis. I was like, this is BS. Like, this is stupid. It's not because people are faking. It's because that's how abuse works. And we live in a society that supports that abuse because it benefits people. It benefits a group of people particularly. And that's why it's not happening. It's not because people people are confabulating or whatever it's called, their memories, or or they're fantasy prone or whatever. It's because there's like that's how abuse works. And it just shocks me. I don't know, it just shocks me. But I'm grateful now to have this wisdom so that I can incorporate it into this and to help people. Like it's now that I'm healing, it's like a gift, but at the same time, it's just like it just pains me to see stupid stuff like this where it's like you know nothing, like you know so little about what you're even talking about that it's sad. Okay, it's almost midnight and I feel like I just really like brought up a bunch of muck, so I'm gonna just try to end the night on a lighter note. I'm gonna make some tea and like, I don't know, watch more Moomin or something. But didn't unexpected day. I did get a lot done. I ate like way too much today. I'm so full right now. I think that's why my stomach was hurting too, combined with the memory, the story. But my God, it's like, this is, I think, my biggest challenge. I mean, the work is fun. I like the reading. I like everything. It's been like a really fun challenge for me. But I think one of the biggest challenges has just been that I just get so mad. And I just have gotten like, sometimes like, not like all the time, but just the misogyny of it all. And I'm not even saying misogyny because it only happens to women, I think it happens to men too. And I imagine that it must be so incredibly difficult as a man to come out with your sexual assault story, sexual abuse story, because of the misogyny as well. And because I think we also see sexual trauma as like a women's violence. And yes, it does happen in really massive numbers to women, but I think that just the overall environment that we create for these stories is deeply rooted in misogyny and just our desire to protect men at all costs, protect the future of men at all costs, the stories of men. And again, women can also be perpetrators of this. But even so, I think that there's something that sometimes people see sexual violence as something effeminate or whatever. And it just goes that deep. I think there's a lot of deeply misogynistic reasons why people who experience sexual abuse, sexual violence of any kind, don't feel comfortable to come out. And these are the manifestations and like the reasons, are theories and stupid things like these. But anyways, that's been my tea for the night. I mean, it's trauma, but it's also kind of tea. Like, that's why I don't care for the Democrat. I mean, I don't care for Democrats either, because it's like, after I heard that, I was like, oh, so y'all just don't even, okay, we're good then. I'm just like, I'm not going to align myself with any of that because it doesn't make any sense. Like, that is just, anyways, yeah, that's my tea. So now we're going to go make some actual tea. We're going to make tea and watch Moomin or something. I don't know.